In this lesson, we're going to discuss the session outcome in our program builder. Okay, we're in a program called Coloring in Lines. And I'm going to go through how this program is configured, specifically the session outcome. Real quick, let's just discuss how we set up the instruments and the opportunity outcome to give us context. So as you can tell for this target, coloring in lines neatly colors within boundaries of circles within a thin line. This target has one measure with a pass-fail instrument. Okay, so we can see that here. And then with a pass-fail instrument, that's pretty simple, a pretty simple opportunity outcome because the basic automatic opportunity outcome is going to work. So that means that plus is 100 and minus is 0. And the opportunity outcome is indicated by the color of the square. Okay, now you can see underneath the opportunities, once I started collecting data, we have the session outcome indicated here. Now, let's discuss what a session outcome is. Whenever data is collected for a target, it yields a session outcome, which will be graphed in the target performance chart. So a session outcome has two main components: a quantitative score, like for example, like 60% or 25 points or 37 minutes if it's duration, or 17 occurrences if it's count. And it also has a qualitative score, which just like opportunity outcome is succeed, fail, or indeterminate. Okay, so you can see in the program builder that the session outcome has two sections. It has a session score and it has a session success criteria. Now, this particular discrete trial type program is set up in a very basic way. So we have a session score, which is automatic. The automatic session score is going to be the success rate. All right, and then we have set our success criteria, and that indicates how many opportunities we want to be exercised in a session. So you can see that there's 5 squares here. So that means we've indicated that we want 5 trials, at least 5 trials. At least means that they can keep going after 5 trials have been completed, but it's with the 5 squares, it's saying that a session is only successful when at least 5 trials have been completed. So as you can see, there's no success indicator here yet because it hasn't met session success criteria, and that's 80%, and the first trial must be correct. Okay, so if I continue to take data, you can see that the session outcome changes. It's 2 out of 2. If I get an incorrect response now, you can see it's 2 out of 3. And then you can see it's 75. Oh, now you can see that this green bar has been illuminated, that it's met session success criteria because there's 5 trials. The first one is correct, and it's 80%. If any of those things are not in place, then that bar will not be green anymore. So if we change this first one, if I can edit this first trial to be incorrect, that success outcome is now, or that outcome is now changed to a failure. And the score is also changed. And you can see, remember over here, this is the indicator of the opportunity outcome. So for this trial, which is highlighted, the opportunity outcome is 0. If I highlight this one, the opportunity outcome is 100. And this is a pretty basic example. If we go into something a little bit more complicated, so I'm going to go ahead and transition to completed to go to the next target. Now the next target is now in baseline. So you can see in this program, we have all of these targets, and we have set up 2 phases. So the person who created this program wants to baseline each of these targets before they're introduced into acquisition. So a baseline session outcome and opportunity outcome is going to look different. So opportunity outcome is the same, because this square here, opportunity, is still plus or minus. But now the session outcome is going to look pretty different. And as you can see, the basic mode for session success criteria doesn't really work for what we want to do. We want to determine if the learner can neatly color within the boundaries, and it looks like that we want the session will succeed when performing exactly 3 opportunities and all of the 3 opportunities succeed. So it's a 3 trial baseline. So that's why we named this this parameter 3 trial baseline. And we also have put a rule in place here where the session fails when performing at least 3 opportunities and any 2 of the opportunities fail. So basically any one of these fail, then the baseline fails. So we can test this out. So if I plus, 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 now it's going to transition to completed because it doesn't need to go into acquisition because this has been baselined. But if we edit one of these, any of these, let's edit the middle one, now it's going to show that it didn't pass baseline. So now if we change any 2 are not successful, now we have to transition to train. Now, of course, this session outcome works in connection with our transition rules, which we're going to go through later. But this session outcome rule works with the transition rules to allow us to automatically transition this baseline. So if we click on the baseline transition bar, it now will transition to train, which is in acquisition. Okay, I'm going to also go into another example for demonstrating a session outcome. It's a little bit more advanced and a little bit different. This is a program, a reading comprehension program, where they're using a curriculum to teach reading comprehension. So the curriculum is broken down into lessons. So the lessons are the targets. So now there's only one phase here, but in this phase we set up an instrument of, well, there's 2 instruments. One first is the measure, an integer measure. The integer measure allows us to put in a score. Okay, so this is most likely, these are going to be worksheets that they're working through, and then the teacher, therapist, or BT is going to score those sections and then enter the score into this field. Now you can see they also added a text anecdotal section here so that any areas, problem areas, they can write that down so they can communicate with each other. But let's look at the opportunity outcome. And this is important because opportunity outcome and session outcome work together often. And in this case, it does. So there is one opportunity in this session to work on this lesson. So the opportunity outcome and the session outcome are very similar because there's only one opportunity and one outcome. So it says here that the opportunity succeeds if the minimum instrument score is at least 100. So that means that this learner needs to get 100% on this worksheet to meet the opportunity outcome criteria. So if it's under, then that opportunity is going to fail. And if it's 100, it's going to succeed. And then you can see it's ready to transition. But the reason why it's ready to transition is because we've also set up a mastery criteria. Importantly, that the session outcome has been set for the opportunity score to be an average. So if we were to do multiple lessons, then the average would be scored here. And then we've also set up where they only want exactly one opportunity. So they only want the lesson to be run once per session, and then otherwise it fails. So here's an example of how they use the session score and an advanced session success criteria to set up some specific advanced rules for this particular session outcome. All right, hope that helps.